Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has hailed British leadership and its assistance for Kyiv against Russia's invasion during talks today with British Defence Secretary Ben Wallace in the Ukrainian capital. Mr. Wallace visiting Kyiv 2 months after Prime Minister Boris Johnson praised Mr. Zelensky for his own leadership during a war in which Britain has provided Ukraine with weapons and financial assistance and has imposed sanctions on Russia. He visited Kyiv a day after 2 Britons and a Moroccan were sentenced to death by a court in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, whose separatist leaders are backed by Moscow after being captured while fighting for Ukraine.
You're also trendy. You have the most trendy defence minister.
Of course, and for me.
You absolutely do.
Yes, I know.
I head of state.
How are you?
I'm General Wallace, Chief of Operations Staff. Well, my miniature assistant, Colonel Hall, who's worked with me before. So.
Good to see you. How are we? You're doing amazing. We do together.
Yeah, well, no, you, Mr. President, and your people. I mean,
people are the close.
Yeah. That's the dividing line between us and Russia.
In the meantime, the Ukrainian president has said Russia has violated about 400 different international treaties. Speaking to the 2022 Copenhagen Democracy Summit by video link, the Ukrainian leader said only during Russia's war against Ukraine and that he wants to remind them that it started in 2014, not on the 24th of February 2022. He said Russia has violated about 400 different international treaties to which their countries are parties. The president gave numerous examples of treaties he claimed Russia had violated, including the UN Charter. He said people should recall the Budapest Memorandum, claiming Russia has added maximum cynicism to the whole picture by violating it. He says with this violation, Russia has put an end to the whole struggle for nuclear disarmament in the world. The Budapest Memorandum was an agreement in 1994 in which Ukraine would give up the nuclear weapons that it had inherited from the Soviet era in exchange for assurances about its future security agreed by Russia, the US and Britain. And the European Parliament, the EU's Parliament, says it supports Ukraine's bid to achieve candidate status to join the European Union. The Parliament's President, Roberta Metsola, said this today at the Copenhagen Democracy Summit. Speaking earlier, Zelensky, of course, said words were not enough and action was needed to make Ukraine part of the European family. He formally also submitted a completed questionnaire on European Union membership, April the 18th. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen handed the questionnaire to Zelensky during a visit to Kyiv April 8, pledging a speedier start to Ukraine's bid to become a member of the EU. This is following Russia's invasion of the country.
On European ambitions, I get asked this by every journalist I meet. Ukraine is already part of our European family, but it is high time that it is also given the real opportunity to join our European project. This is about hope. This is about an acknowledgement of the price that Ukraine has been forced to pay. And it is as much about strengthening Europe as it is about strengthening Ukraine. So let me be clear. The European Parliament, which I have the honor and responsibility to preside, stands firmly behind Ukraine's bid to receive EU candidate status.
VOA's Anna Chernikova joins us now from Kyiv. Anna, good to see you. Anna, talk to us about what we're hearing. Russia has said that the death sentence applicable to the Britons and, of course, the Moroccan, I think he was saying that, the UK was being hysterical about its response, but it was also sort of hinted at more strikes to come. What are you hearing?
Good evening. Well, it's, of course, I think that we cannot just, be silent with this kind of acquisitions by, well, by basically the judgment of a state which is not recognized. So, of course, it's, you know, it's something that everyone should, you know, stand for and try to appeal, because death sentence by the unrecognized country, well, not even country, like a state, you know, it's something that could not happen in 21st century and could not happen in Europe, and I mean, it just could not happen anywhere. So what we are hearing here is that, of course, well, it's something which is not going under any law. It's something which is not going under any international law, especially, and under any treaties, and especially under the war treaties. So we just hope that these international citizens would be exchanged at one point, and I think this is something which will be negotiated. At least this is, I mean, somehow this is what it is the feeling of, because we don't really have a certain, you know, official like, you know, wide response, because this is just, as I already said, this is just goes beyond any laws and any treaties. So we will hope that this would be discussed on the highest level, and these international citizens would be just exchanged and return to Ukraine, and then to return to their own countries.
And also, we understand the Ukraine definitely wants European status, and we also know that the Ukrainian president had also said he was going to soft pedal on joining NATO, and one wonders what happens now. This is, you know, between both countries. Are they moving ahead to talks in ways that, you know, Russia can put an end to this invasion? What will happen? But perhaps before you talk about that, let's go to the east, Severodonetsk especially. We heard from analysts that in 2 weeks, you know, Russia might liberate that place. Now, on the other hand, Russian troops are expecting arms and ammunition, you know, from US and its allies. Has it gotten any, and what does it look like there on the front lines?
Well, the situation in Severodonetsk in particular remains extremely difficult, remains extremely, you know, hard to easily explain, you know, in terms of logic or in terms of any tactics, because what Russian forces are doing basically is just, you know, removing this place from the map and just destroying everything which is there. Like, for example, today we got information that one of the main arenas in Severodonetsk, where all the sport events were happening, all the cultural events were happening, and this was basically the symbol of Severodonetsk, it was destroyed by Russian forces. And well, this is something that just proves that Russia do not plan to keep the city, you know, for living, and just plan to capture the territory, because they need territory to go on. So basically, it's not about capturing the town, it's about capturing a territory, a land, and that's it. We hear a lot that Ukrainian forces are doing a great job of defense. We're hearing a lot that Ukrainian forces are doing a great, you know, tactic moves, because, for example, we know from officials, from the military officials, that in terms of artillery equipment, artillery system and ammunition, Ukrainians are at certain point are 1 to 10 if we compare to Russian side. So Russians have much more of all these artillery systems in that particular area. And Ukrainians, what they do, and this is what we have, like, you know, it's confirmed statistics, that Ukrainian forces are trying to get Russians into the streets, to get into the street fights, because street fights is something that Russian forces are not very successful at, and Ukrainians are trying to beat them and try to destroy as much manpower as they can, in order to, you know, neglect this artillery, like difference in artillery numbers that both sides have. So Severodonetsk, the turn there could be very different, and at least this is what we what we can tell for the moment, and it's difficult, to predict. Some people say, and some experts say, that Ukrainians might take it over. Some people say that Russians would actually succeed. But again, what we clearly see that this battle is happening now for a very long time, and this is definitely not what Russians were planning, because Russians wanted to capture this town as fast as possible, and definitely not, spending there so many weeks and even months. So we will see. Well, situation, as I already said, remains extremely difficult, and this remains the the center of battlefield for the moment. If we look at the other parts of the front line, well, in general, situation at Donetsk region and Luhansk region is very, very complicated, and very heavy fightings are going on. We should not forget that Kharkiv region and the city of Kharkiv itself remains also under great danger, because a lot of shellings happening, people are dying, and unfortunately civilians are suffering and losing their homes. But yes, we should concentrate still on, unfortunately, we cannot, I mean, I don't want to say that Kharkiv region or Kharkiv city is less important, but we should understand that main forces are now concentrated from both sides, are now concentrated in Luhansk and Donetsk region. If we come back to your first question in terms of EU integration and membership candidacy that Ukraine is waiting for, well, this is one of the most important questions now for Ukraine in this, upcoming weeks. So, of course, Ukraine expects to get this status of the candidate to the EU, and we know that well, today we had certain information that there are a couple of countries which don't want to support this decision. We know exactly that which countries will support. What we hear from the official, comments from different leaders of different countries. But of course, as President Zelensky already mentioned a lot of times, and Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that Ukraine is fighting for the future and for the peace in Europe, in the world, and Ukraine is basically has already proved that all the standards and all the aims of civilized European society are also here in Ukraine, and we're fighting for these values. And so, of course, Ukraine is expecting that this would be a positive decision. At least a lot of things have already started to change in the country, even despite the war, and especially in the military sector. During the war, it was a huge reform, which is going in parallel with the war itself. So, well, we'll see. It's very important, step by the European countries, and it's important. I think it's quite a historical step. So we will see how it's going to turn. Very interesting. Indeed. What's going to happen.
Very true. Anna, continue to stay safe. Thanks so much, VOA's Anna Chenikova, joining us there from Kyiv.
Thank you.
And the UN Human Rights Office, OHCHR, said that it was concerned about the situation of 3 foreigners who were captured while fighting for Ukraine and have been sentenced to death in one of Russia's proxies in eastern Ukraine. 2 Britons and Moroccan received a death sentence Thursday from a court in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic.
Your Honour, I misunderstood. There was a misunderstanding. I was confused, and I want to take away my not guilty and change it to guilty.
That is one of the Britons, his response when he's been asked questions there. But of course, the Russian fast food chain McDonald's, that was formerly McDonald's in the country, has revealed its new logo as it prepares to reopen its restaurants from Sunday. The new branding features a circle, 2 lines, which are set to represent a burger and 2 French fries. Let's talk to security analyst Temitope Olodo, who joins us now for more on what's really happening in Ukraine. Thanks for joining us on the program. I mean, what do you make of, where we are with the invasion of Ukraine? What's your take on the outlook?
The outlook is definitely brink. It's unfortunate that many people have lost their life. A lot of resources, unnecessary resources have been lost. And as a result of this war, the world has been plunged into the food security crisis. So there is a lot of loss that has come out as a result of this war. Where are we going? That is the $1 million question, because this war will not be ended by the physical war, and it will not be ended by negotiation. It will be ended by the mindset of Putin, President Putin, because it's what President Putin is thinking, or is thinking, that will determine when this war will end. Because we know from his rhetoric and from things that he has said in the past, that anybody that supports Ukraine will help him, will embolden him the more to destroy Ukraine. Because if you actually want to capture a place and keep it for yourself, then you don't need to destroy it. But what he's doing literally is actually destroying Ukraine, destroying the infrastructure, destroying almost everything about Ukraine, their culture, their schools, their hospital. That would take loads of millions of pounds or dollars to reconstruct and get Ukraine back to where it was prior to the crisis. So for me and for many analysts that are looking at it, understanding the mindset of Putin is the beginning of understanding when this war will end.
And, we're seeing a lot of comments, a lot of reactions to the Britons who have been sentenced by the Russia separatist region, also the Moroccan. But we know before this, Ukraine had sentenced a 21-year-old Russian, Vermin Shishimarin, I believe, as well. I mean, what kind of rules apply now in this war? Is there justice to it?
There's a lot of injustice that is going on. Whether we like it or not, a lot of injustice have gone on since the beginning of this war. And many Nigerians that are watching us right now will remember the horror of seeing a lot of Black people being prevented from getting on the train. That is also, they are also casualty of this dirty and unfortunate war that is going and that is ongoing. So there are a lot of people are victims of it. But in terms of the Geneva Convention, it is very, very clear about how a prisoner of war should be treated. And under that standard, the current situation with the British citizen and the Moroccan is definitely cannot be said to fall within the remit of that law. So, and that's the reason why I know that the UK Minister of Foreign Affairs has spoken to our counterpart, and in strong terms made it very clear that they are not happy with the proxy approach adopted by the Russians, because the belief of the British is that the Russians are actually indirectly at the fingers behind, pointing the buttons with regard to how these individuals should be treated. So my hope, and just like your previous guest, is that this issue will be dealt with politically, and that those individuals will be exchanged one way or the other, either by Ukraine, because Britain will want to maintain their stance, like they're not doing that exchange. But definitely Ukraine might come to the aid of the British, because the British population have actually been quite helpful to the Ukrainians. So it would be quite good if the Ukrainians could actually throw a bone and say, actually, because the British have been very supportive of us, we are willing to exchange some of the prisoners in exchange. That will actually swell up the support they get here in the UK and across Europe.
We always appreciate your time on the program. Security analyst Temitope Olodo, thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.